What's up, everyone? Findeisen here from HS. Yo. Oh god, we're never going to do that again. Welcome to the second part of the production breakdown of Hate Her. This time we're looking at the vocals. If you haven't seen part 1 where we look at the music, you can check that out right here. And if you haven't listened to the music video yet, also please do check that out up here. We're not going to be playing the song in full in this video here, so for context, please do check out the music video first, and then come back here to see the breakdown. Now without further ado, welcome to Hate Her. Before we get into it, I'd actually like to show you the first demo that I got for this song that I based my production off of. So here's what it sounded like initially before I started working on it. And keep in mind that this is not a professional production. This was just something she put together really quickly, and she had like a box of ideas, and this is one she pulled out.
Ooh, I hate it when you meet her. I don't like it when you see her. You say it's not a crime, but I'm thinking all the time.
So this was the original melody for the chorus, and the rest I kind of didn't take. This was like the idea that I took from it. What I changed essentially about this main melody is, first of all, I changed it from AABB to AAAB. In hers, you have 2 repetitions of the same melody, basically, and then 2 more repetitions of a slightly different melody. You could also argue that it's AABC, because the last one is a little bit different than the second to last one. And I changed it basically to this, what you see right here, which is 3 times the same thing, responded by 3 times the same thing. So this is a call and response kind of thing. Call, response, call, response, call, response. And then you have like that B line right here, which is the tagline of the song, this one. Right? So might as well actually start with this chorus, but before we do, let's look at this entire session so we get a little bit of an overview of what this whole thing is going to look like. So this right here is, let me close those track stacks here so we get a little bit better overview of this whole thing. This is 81 tracks for just the vocals, added on top of the music production that I showed you last time. And these are all track stacks, so these consist of several tracks themselves. So that's why this looks a little bit more compressed than it actually is. But let's actually start with the chorus right here. Now the chorus consists of 2 repetitions, pretty much the exact same lyrics. Is that right? Yes, it is. And it consists of these calls and then these responses here. Now these calls here consist of 8 voices that are all singing the exact same thing. Right? Same thing. And they are panned all the way to the left, all the way to the right, almost all the way to the left, almost all the way to the right, etc. Right? So they're slowly moving in, and then this last one is center, but it is pulled down in the mix. So that is like very, very stereo, this entire sound. It's very much on the sides of the mix. And then we get this main vocal, which is the response to it, and I wanted to separate it from those oohs and ahs, so that's why this track here is actually dead center. And then these backing vocals here, dead center. And these backing vocals here are just slightly off to the side, so +8 and -10, I think. Yeah, that's right. So this is very much, this feels way more mono. This is definitely feels more like it's coming from the center. This just really barely adds to the stereo imaging of it all. There's a little bit of reverb on it, obviously, which gives it more of a stereo impression, but that doesn't really come through if you have an overloaded arrangement like we have here in the chorus musically. There's a lot of instruments going on at the same time, so you don't really notice the reverb of the vocals that much anymore. But this makes this feel very mono, and this feels very stereo, giving you this nice call and response coming from the sides and then from the center. And then here we have that tagline, the ha-ha hate her. So here we have one that's panned all the way to the left, all the way to the right, and then slowly moving in to those kind of values. That's what it looks like. So basically this one here is kind of between these oohs and ahs and this mono track. So these all do go all the way to the sides here, but they also move in way closer. So they're also going to like -20, -30 and +30. So they're kind of like an in-betweener, so to say. So we have almost 30 tracks here just for the chorus. But this is very standard stuff, guys. I mean, this is basic layering. There's nothing really special about this. One thing I might want to mention is these backings here. These are just basically double tracked. So that's just double tracking of.
Just hate it when you're near her.
And then this here is just an auto-tuned version of the main vocals, which is just transposed up an octave. The throat length is changed a little bit. So the format is changed basically, and that just gives you this. very electronic sound.
Don't like it when you see her.
I think it was way lower in the final mix. This is not really beautiful sound. It was just to add a little bit of an electronic sound to it. But in the second half of the chorus, just to keep things interesting, I've added 2 more backing vocals, which do this.
I hate it when you meet her. Don't like it when you see her.
So we get a little bit of harmony in the second half of the chorus. In the second chorus, they just, you know, happen from the very start. Just with the first chorus, I didn't overwhelm people, so I took those out. And they only come in the second half of the first chorus. To starkly contrast what we've just witnessed in this chorus, let's go to the first verse, which consists of all but one singular vocal. As you can see, there's nothing in all these tracks, meaning this is just one singular vocal. And that's how I like to handle it very, very often, actually, in verses. I want to have that stark contrast between the verses, which I want very sparse, and then the chorus. And this is the only vocal performance. It's cut together from a lot of different takes. And it sounds like this.
Looks can be deceiving.
And then,
Got me hooked up on a feeling. Now you're tearing me apart.
and so these here are basically just delays that I made manually. Oftentimes I'll just use H delay. For this, I had a very specific effect in mind that I wanted. I wanted just to have exactly 3 repetitions of it, which is difficult to do with H delay. And I also wanted it to seem like it moves further and further away from you. So as you can see, the panning here goes a little bit to the left, a little bit less to the right, and a little bit less to the left. So the stereo spectrum of it decreases as it moves further and further away. And this is for a very simple psychoacoustic reason. If you're standing in front of a drum set, right in front of a drum set, you're going to have a very stereo experience. If that drummer hits the crash right next to you, you're going to hear it more on one ear than on the other. So it's going to sound very, very stereo. But if that drummer moves back 200 meters, your experience of that drummer's performance is going to sound very mono. All of the different instruments are packed way closer together from your point of view, meaning if he plays a crash with the left hand or the right hand, it's pretty much all going to sound as if it's coming from the same place. So your stereo experience is minimized, which means things that are further away are less stereo. That is why this first one here is panned more to the sides than the second one, and the third one is almost mono because it is so far away. That's a very subtle little effect, but if you listen to it together with the main vocals, you'll see that this is what it sounds like.
Got me hooked up on a feeling. Now you're tearing me apart.
Right? So it does sound as if it's moving further to the back. And it's not just because of the loudness, that's also plays a big part in it, obviously, but it's also that stereo spectrum that is minimized. Now we're moving on to this last part here of the verse.
Take a piece of advice.
Super simple stuff. Actually, just a duplicate. This was basically just a duplicate track of this first one, so exactly the same plugin chain. And then we have auto-tune transposing that down 12 semitones, so an octave down. Super simple stuff. Really nothing special about that. Then we have the pre-chorus, and the pre-chorus starts off with this little thing right here.
You bet.
And if you don't know how to do that, let me show you quickly how I made that. First of all, I bounced this little bit, so I cut out the first word, you, to a new track. Went to the file manager in Logic and reversed it. So this is how you reverse a file in Logic. Onto this, I put a reverb, let's say Valhalla reverb, with a mix 100%, no pre-delay, a lot of decay, no high cut, and a lot of depth. Then I basically just bounce that out again. So we get, this should be a very long one. Yep, there we go. That's what she said. This we can delete. Now we can reverse that back like this. I think we can actually just shorten this down to here and then add a fade in like this. And maybe position this, let's say, here. And this is what it sounds like together now. So basically, this is a reverb that happens before the actual word. We probably have to move it around a little bit to get this kind of thing.
You better think.
Right? And that's what that sounds like. And that's how I got that sound. This is something you often hear in Nicki Minaj productions and stuff like that. It's a very modern thing a lot of producers do. Then we have these backing vocals here, which basically add to the main vocals. So this is the main vocals.
You better think about what.
These backing vocals here, it's just 2, are actually just adding another octave on top of it. So they're going up one octave. It's falsetto.
You better think about what we got, and boy, you better think.
Right? So that's all that is. And down here, we have the pre-chorus choir, which doesn't happen quite yet. I took it out for the first pre-chorus. It was a little bit too much. But then we have a little bit of ear candy right here in the back, which I really like. I think they took it out of the final production, but I do like it. Here's what that sounds like. right? Doesn't sound much by itself, but
Boy, you better think about your girl at home, or you better think.
I think it just sounds cool. It just gives a little bit more of a stereo spectrum. But in terms of stereo spectrum, this is also quite mono. So this is all the way, centered, and then these pre-backing vocals here are slightly panned to the left, like halfway to the sides. And that gives it sort of a stereo spectrum somewhere in between the verse, which was all the way mono, and the chorus, which starts off with these oohs and ahs that are go all the way to the sides. The verse ends with this little harmony here, which is probably my favorite part of the vocal production. First of all, we have the main vocals up here.
I'ma be okay. I'ma be okay.
Then we have this.
I'ma be okay.
Same thing, just an octave above, so nothing has changed in this track here. But then we get this.
I'ma be okay.
And what was the other one? This one. I'ma be okay.
Okay.
And together, it sounds like this.
I'ma be okay.
And I like that part. So that's probably my favorite part in terms of the vocal production, in terms of the vocal arrangement. And then we go into the second verse. And
Boy, I know this side of mine.
as you can see, it's
And it ain't easy.
pretty much the same as the first verse.
Jealousy takes over.
We have some more
I go need
delays, and then
instead of being there for you, I'm thinking how you're not with me. And baby, I know it ain't.
so this is just adding some harmony.
Baby, I know it ain't true. I gotta say that
And then we get this backing choir here to make it a little bit different from the first pre-chorus. Let's listen to those voices.
true. I gotta say that
So those are panned slightly to the sides, a little more to the sides, and a little more to the sides. So they're like 3/4, like halfway to the sides, I guess. So pretty much the same as these backing vocals up here. And here we also get some new stuff. So last time we only had this. So here we have the octave, and now this is new.
think about what
This is just a straight up double of the main vocals. And then we get this,
we haven't, boy.
which adds a little bit more melody to the main
About
vocals.
what we haven't, boy. You just ignore the needy bitch in me. Or you better sleep in this here bed tonight. I'ma be okay.
Then we get this again.
I'ma be okay.
All right, and then we move into the second chorus. And the bridge, much like the verses, consists of pretty much just one singular vocal line. This is the one right here. So let's listen to that real quick to get an idea, to get to remember what it sounds like.
Can't understand why you easy is that I'm really just fooling myself.
Right, so that was that. And then that is answered by a choir up here, which consists of these two track stacks. They're both the exact same takes. I just copied them down. And to the second one here, I added an octave using autotune to give it a more robotic sound, I guess, to make it sound a little bit more modern. So you can hear this is the original choir. And so then I added the octave. And together. Sounds really otherworldly, I think. And then especially over here, I think it sounds really pretty. Right? Better than. Which sounds nice as well, but it's just very natural, and I wanted something a little bit more modern, a little bit more electronic here. So that's why I doubled that. Those are the backing vocals. Let's see what they actually do. So I think these are pretty much all doing pretty much the same thing. So they're basically just singing harmony, but pretty much the same melody. And then over here we get that's a double. Pretty much a third above with, an added last note. Same thing again. and that's a double of that. So again, that amounts up to.
I'm falling.
And this second part here, I actually basically copied this first half, I think. I think that's pretty much what happened. See, it's exactly that. And then I took out those two because they didn't work with the harmony. Let's just listen to the harmony and the backing track together. See, that last note is just really, because these notes here go back to the 1 of the scale, and the chord goes to a 5. You know, that leads to an 11 in the chord. That doesn't really work. So I took those out. Doesn't really matter anyways, because the arrangement is filling up anyways, so there's enough stuff happening already. But let's listen to, actually, let's just listen to those 4 here together with the backing track. And there's actually one note in there which I think is pretty spectacular, and that's not this one, it's this one here. So that is a flat 6 in the scale, meaning that's a flat 9 against that 5 chord. So if you listen to that again, right, you have the 5 in the chord, and then that the flat 6 in the scale becomes the flat 9 of that chord, which has a lot of tension. But since we're going to minor, that's fine. It is just a really jazzy kind of chord, but it's something you probably wouldn't expect in this kind of arrangement. It's just, you know, adding something like that in every once in a while is just really good fun. And moving on to the last chorus, what we have here is something similar to the previous choruses, but as you can see, I stripped out a lot of voices, so we don't have all of these backing vocals, we don't have the main vocals in the middle, we don't have that double that is an octave higher. Instead, we have all of these guys, and those are pretty much the same as those. I think I pretty much just copied them down. But what should be different, and let me check if that's true, is that the panning is different. So as you can see, this is the same as this one, but the panning here is a little bit wider, right? And it's the same with these ones too. So this one is also wider than the first one. So basically I just pulled apart these vocals a little bit more to leave a little bit more room in the middle. So as if you remember in the first and second chorus, we had this thing of backing vocals on the sides and then main vocal in the middle. Well, here we have the main vocals halfway. The oohs are still completely on the sides, but these are now halfway. And then in the middle, we get this new line. Right? So we have sort of ad-libs in the middle now, in the dead center. And that is really the biggest change about this section right here. That again, the panning has changed a little bit to leave room for all the different voices and to make sure that they can all be distinctly heard. And that was it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment to let me know so I'll know to continue with this series in the future. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your mom. Thanks for watching. Keep writing and stay gefährlich.